everybody, hope that you're well. Welcome back to the Daughter Arise channel. So today I'm just going to give you a quick fill-in on what I have been doing. So I have been making progress in the Testimony to the Street event, which is coming up on June the 3rd. We are basically going to be down in Brixton from 11 AM to 1 PM. We're going to be engaging with the public. I'm going to be sharing my story about my experience of sexual abuse and how I came through that, in the hopes of being able to help people that have been through it themselves. Now, we know that because of the stigma of sexual abuse and the guilt and shame and fear attached to coming out and saying that you've gone through something as traumatic as that, a lot of people do keep things to themselves. So I am hoping by going and sharing my story that people will feel inspired, encouraged, hopeful, and feel empowered to be able to share their own experiences. Now, I've got a fantastic group of about 7 women who will be coming down and supporting me as I do that. We will be engaging with the public. As I said, those of us who are Christians will be offering to pray with people. We're going to be talking to people, telling them what Daughter Arise is doing in the community, in the hopes that they will either access help from Daughter Arise or from any other organisation that deals with abuse issues, so that they can get the help that they need. Now, there's so much that has been going on in the press lately with all the stories that have been coming out. Recently, there has been a documentary on this week called 3 Girls, which was telling the story about the girls that were abused in Rotherham by the Asian grooming gangs. And I will be doing a short review on that, but I actually found it very, very difficult to watch. And I have read the book by the main girl, and the book is called Girl A. I have read the book, but I didn't even complete it through to the end because I found it too upsetting. So I will be doing some kind of review on that. But I think with everything that is coming out with these documentaries, everything that's been going on in the news, we have news again this week that Rolf Harris is going to be released from prison. I don't know why he's been released from prison. He should serve his sentence. And he comes across as very arrogant because he is still not taking no responsibility for the things that he has done. So there's lots of things happening. And I think even though it's unfortunate as it is that sexual abuse is still underreported in our society, unfortunately, because of all these stories coming out, it's sad that it's had to happen to so many of us, but we can do something. We can take something good from what has happened by trying to empower other people through our experiences. So we're hoping to do that in a couple of weeks' time. So I needed to raise £210 to be able to raise the money for the t-shirts, the roller banner stand cards, and I've been able to start getting some of the items. So as you can see, I have got the t-shirts and the roller banner stands, and you know, as we go along raising the money, I will be continuing to buy the stuff needed for the event. I am excited, but I am a bit nervous. But I actually spoke to somebody recently who had done street talking, evangelism, sharing stuff on the street, and they said they found the experience so positive. And this person is somebody that I look up to. She's like a mentor to me. So I take that as encouragement in what I'm doing. I don't feel scared to do it. I'm just nervous because it's not something I've ever done. But I honestly believe that, you know, if we come out of our comfort zones and do things that we've never done before, that is where the greatest adventure lies. New experiences, that is what life is about. And, you know, I will be preparing for that leading up to it. But if you would like to donate, please see the link in the description bar below. I do have a GoFundMe page. For some reason, lots of people don't seem to like to use GoFundMe. You might want to use a PayPal link on the Daughter Arise website. I'll put the website down in the description bar. And yeah, if you can even give £1, that's absolutely great. I'm confident we're going to reach our target because, you know, we're already now nearly 2 weeks in, and, you know, we only have £135 to raise. And yeah, going forward, I believe we will continue to raise the money to do that. So please support in any way that you can, and, you know, help us to make a difference, you know, to people's lives. So basically today I want to talk to you about last week I did a video on emotional abuse, and that was basically my story of what happened to me as a young lady. I was in a relationship with somebody who I thought loved me, cared for me, and they were emotionally and physically abusive. Now, I just want to say that I did really cover a lot about the emotional abuse in the last video, and I did slightly mention that I had gone through physical abuse with this person as well. This wasn't done in any way to be intentional. It was just that based upon the experiences I had and from talking to people, emotional abuse seems to be a place where a lot of people were stuck. But I did go through physical abuse, I did mention, he did hit me a few times, left bruises. One time, the first time he hit me, he did chip my tooth. But the emotional abuse, the physical abuse was bad enough, but and he did things to me that was not nice, and I've wrote about this in my autobiography, Daughter Arise. But the emotional abuse, the name calling, the hurtful words left a longer lasting impact. Not to excuse away from physical abuse, because if you've gone through it, it's absolutely terrible. I was in pain, I was fearful at times. And, I had to go through a lot of different things to do with that, because it wasn't just myself to consider. I had a young baby as well. But emotional abuse is a lot harder is just as hard for people to be able to come out of as well. People always say sticks and stones will break my bones, words will never hurt me. But I beg to differ, because words do actually hurt. So in the video, I was just sharing my experience, why I was in that relationship. I was looking for love, acceptance, affirmation. Here was this person, this guy who was charming, good looking, knew all the right things to say, and I fell for it hook, line and sinker. And I thought that was what I needed, and it wasn't. And it took me 8 years to be able to sever ties completely with that relationship. It was always going to be a hard thing for me to do, but I believe that I made the best choices with the information that I had at the time in order to get through. They say that when you know better, you do better. And when I did get the information and knowledge to do better, I started to make better choices. So there are some things, as I said, some signs to look out for if you are in an emotionally abusive relationship. They call you names. They put you down in front of other people. They make you feel fat, ugly and worthless. They neglect you, emotionally withhold affection from you, do not return your calls, belittle you in front of other people, make mean things to make you feel depressed about yourself, anxious. And it's all these different things. And this list is not conclusive of what emotional abuse is about, but these are just some instances, some things that are warning signs that you're in an emotionally abusive relationship. Now, one of the things I need you to know is that emotional abuse is psychological bullying designed to cause you to feel anxious, depressed, and traumatized. And again, that is not the whole kind of gist of what emotional and psychological abuse is about, but it is a form of bullying. And bullying is always designed to make the other person feel down, while the other person wants to be in control, would use these different ways by name calling or using their fist to try and bring that person to where they want them to be. And it's a sign of insecurity on the part of the person who's perpetrating this type of abuse. Now, I need you to know that if you are in a relationship where you are going through emotional or physical abuse, you need to know that there's nothing that you could have done to warrant that behavior towards yourself. Everybody has a measure of self-control. And, unfortunately for some of us, I can only speak from my experience. I came from an already vulnerable relationship, vulnerable situation. As you know, my background, I had been through sexual abuse. And it made it very hard for me to be able to decipher what a good, healthy relationship looked like. So by the time I was 16 and I ended up in this relationship, I thought it was the best thing in the world. But I had nothing in place to be able to measure you know, because of the relationship with my father, which was a very devastating kind of example, I had nothing to measure what a good relationship looked like. So I went into this relationship. But even still, even though I could argue back at times, we'd have arguments, that still didn't warrant the abuse that this abuse that the person had done to me. So you need to know it's not your fault. It's hard because a lot of people will say, if only I did this, if I didn't say something, if I only got, you know, his dinner on the table on time, if I didn't answer back, then maybe he wouldn't treat me like this, you know. But if you're honest with yourself, you know, I believe that you know that you don't deserve to be treated like that. Love, if somebody loves you, they wouldn't treat you in this way. And it's very, very hurtful. You know, love shouldn't hurt. That is the bottom line. Love shouldn't hurt. And at some point when you're in this relationship, like I said, when I was going through it, there came a time where I had to evaluate and take stock of what was going on in the relationship. And it was information and through therapy that I was able to start to make better choices. There's a time within all of us when we're going through these relationships where we start to take stock and think to ourselves, is this relationship making me happy? Am I feeling loved in this relationship? Is this relationship making me feel better about myself? These are little things that we can start to ask, that you can start to ask yourself about your relationship. For me, that relationship made me feel down and depressed all the time. And I was in tears a lot of the time. And, you know, it was after many years that I was able to kind of, with the help, as I said, through counselling, be able to leave that relationship. It doesn't come easy because I think that even when a lot of women know that a relationship is not good for them, they will still stay. So even if they don't feel happy in themselves, even if they feel emotionally unloved, treated bad, something in them will make them still continue to be with that person. I believe that low self-esteem and low confidence is at the root of why a lot of women stay. I stayed because I felt grinded into the ground. And I felt tired. I was weary. I was only like 17, 18, from 16, you know, going 17, 18 in this relationship for a long time. Plus all the other issues I had from my childhood. I felt like an old woman at a very young age. And when he was saying things to me, I kept thinking, who's going to want me? Who's going to want me with all my issues? And I thought that he was the only option I had, so I stayed. So I fully understand how hard it is to leave a relationship, even though we might know that this relationship is not good for us and that it's actually a bad relationship. I had a young daughter at the time, and, you know, out of everything that has happened, I regret that she had to be witness to some of the behaviour and dysfunction that she saw from both of us within the relationship, but also some of the abusive stuff that she saw as well. You know, out of all of us, she didn't ask to be born into that. You know, and you know, I'm sorry about all of that. You know, but as I said, when I knew better, I did better, and it's been hard. You know, I think one of the things that you might be able to do is to write down the pros and cons of being in this relationship. Some people might not even be at a stage where they even are able to answer the questions, does this relationship make them happy, or if the relationship is healthy. But one of the things that you could do is to start writing down the pros and cons of being in this relationship. You know how this relationship is making you feel. You know the impact it's having on your health. And, you know, if you want to get help and advice in being able to, you know, to kind of get a listening ear to be able to help with that, there are some organisations out there, which I've mentioned before. There's REFUGE, which is a national organisation that help victims of domestic violence, and also as well Living Without Abuse. Now these two organisations offer a 24-hour helpline. You can call them, and I'm going to leave the links in the description box so that you can access that information. There's nothing wrong with giving them a call. It's a free phone number. Giving them a call and having a conversation with them about your relationship. You don't even have to give your name, but it's good to get a listening ear, because sometimes when we're wrapped up in something, it can be really confusing and hard to know what is the right thing to do. Is what I'm feeling, is that right? Is what's going on, is that okay? It's good to sometimes speak to somebody outside of your situation, who can, give you a completely can give you a kind of advice from a completely different standpoint. They're not involved personally in your situation, but they can obviously give you advice and maybe give you some tools that might be able to help you. But ultimately, with all abusive relationships, whether emotionally or physically, it has to get to a point where you have to get out of it because of different reasons. Some women end up getting beaten, some even to death, some being controlled to the point where they're just a complete wreck. We need to be able to have conversations about this and understand that I might have wanted that person to love me. As I said in the last video, I wanted this person's love. It didn't matter, I wasn't an ugly girl or anything like that, and that, not to say that's anything, but there were other guys that were interested in me, whatever, but I wanted this particular guy to love me. This is where I wanted to get my self-esteem built up from, and confidence. But as I said, hurt people hurt other people. And he was in no position to be able to help himself. And, we both came from different but difficult kind of backgrounds. So we were in no position to love or help each other. But it's important to know that these relationships are not good for your health, and it's important to try and get help to leave those relationships behind. I think some things that you can start to do, if you have left the relationship, some of the things you can start to do is take time to heal. Not going and jumping into another relationship, because, it's important that we kind of look at the reasons why, we might have got into relationships. Not that we are to blame, because at the end of the day, everybody wants to be loved. But it's important that you look at the reasons why certain situations were really come into our lives. And I think that when you've come out of an abusive relationship, the first thing for me, what I found is that I needed to start to know myself. Up until that point, I'd just been in one abusive or chaotic situation after another, whether that was growing up in my home, being in the care system, being moved from pillar to post, all the chaos surrounding that. Then, being 16 in this relationship, being pregnant. There was no time from my childhood up until 22 years old where I actually took time to know who I was and start to get to learn about everything to do with me. And that happened at 22, as I said. But I think it's important when you've come out of an abusive relationship is to take time to get to know yourself so that you can heal. Get to know the things that you like, things that matter to you, things that you need to be able to let go and grieve of. It's important to get to have that time to heal, to learn to love yourself. I think in getting to do these things, you can start to develop self-worth and value of your own self, and that coming from within, inside of you, rather than seeking it from outside people like boyfriends and stuff like that. That's what I had to do, and it was very hard, because there were times where I just wanted to be loved and hugged, but I still didn't know what that was. So it was better for me not to be in relationships. And yes, obviously, there were times where I had these kind of little kind of short relationships, but they weren't real relationships, not like what I have now. I mean, I've been married now for 12 years to a really loving man, and it's a safe relationship. We're able to be open with each other about our feelings, and I've allowed myself to be loved by him. And 12 years we're going to be married in July, and if you would have said to me years ago that I would be in a marriage, especially with all the kind of issues I had with trust and relationships, I would have said to you there's no way I would have been married. But it is possible, but it's a journey of self-discovery first, taking that time to heal, finding out what you like and dislike, learning how to value yourself. And you can do that through different things. I mean, for me, I did it through counselling. As I've already said to you, I read a lot of books. I read books on everything, and that has been part of my recovery, not just in and in emotional, physical relationships, but also as well in recovering from sexual abuse, reading a lot of books and gaining knowledge about different areas of recovery and self, and starting to learn about myself and developing boundaries as well. That helped me to start to heal. That's, I think that comes with knowledge, deciding actually this is what I want for my life, and this is not what I want for my life, and learning how to build that boundary and say no, actually I don't want this in my life. And there might be a part of you, that needy part of you, that might say no, but I just want to be loved. This person, seems so nice or whatever. But there might be outward signs. It's important that we build those inner foundations first. Then we're able to kind of decipher what we want for our life in terms of relationships and people. And, that is how, we can start to do that. And as well, not just knowledge, but surrounding yourself with positive people. Counselling for me has been a fantastic thing that has helped me to put all these foundations in place. My relationship with Christ has been another area which has helped me to put these things in place. Surrounding yourself with positive people, positive experiences will help to add value to building yourself and build self-esteem as well. Discovering new things about yourself. Maybe there might have been things where, I don't know, you might have had a love to do something before, but because of the relationship you were in, you had to give it up, or you never discovered it, or maybe the person told you that you wouldn't be good at that and stuff, and you just put those things to the back of your mind. Maybe it's time to start to discover those things again. Think to the things that you love to do, things that you liked doing, building upon those passions and getting to discover them again are another thing that you can use to start to add value to self. All this is part of self-healing, and not being scared to be alone. For me, I was scared of being alone because of my experiences and being in care and everything. And I've been out here since 13 years old, and I've had to more or less bring up myself. I had to raise myself. And that was one of the main factors why I stayed so long in this so-called relationship of sorts, because I didn't want to be by myself. I didn't want to be a single parent. I wanted my child to grow up with two parents. And that, for me, was the main thing that I really wanted. So these are all things that we can use to help us to be able to recover from and help you to recover as well from emotional and physical abuse. And there's loads of things on the internet now that, if you Google things to do with emotional recovery, developing good emotional health, there's loads of kind of tips and advice out there where you can just, pick up some information and start to do things. And as well, journaling. I love journaling. You've heard me talk about it before. I love journaling. I think journaling is a good way of getting out your feelings, your emotions about things. It gives you time to also as well to reflect and ponder upon experiences that you've been through, and thinking about the way forward as well, because you'll always have that written down that you can come back to. So these are just some little things that you can use to start to help you. If you want to leave the relationship, please, as I said, ring an organisation like Living Without Abuse or REFUGE. Just have a confidential conversation with them and tell them a bit about your situation. It's nothing. There's not going to be no harm in that. You can't lose in that situation. And also as well, if you have come out of an abusive relationship, just doing these things, taking time to heal, not being scared of being by yourself, learning how to build boundaries and to say no. And, you can get help with that by accessing counselling, maybe through your GP, or speaking to, these helplines. They might be able to give you some information on being able to do that as well, how to heal from an emotional or physical abuse relationship. So I hope these things have helped you. And one thing I think that has been true, somebody who I know and I've known for a long time, once said that, you know, after being in relationships for years where physically abusive relationships and emotionally abusive relationships had left her in a state where she was a complete wreck, and at the moment she's trying to rebuild her life. And one of the things that she said to me was that, yes, the hitting was bad enough, but I can't get the words of what they said out of my head. For her, the hurt of the words, the emotional abuse, the words that were said to her has left a longer lasting impact for her than the bruises. And I have to agree with her with that, because for me, you know, yes, you know, it was bad enough that he hit me and couldn't control his temper and stuff, but the emotional words that he said to me left a long lasting effect and left me hurt. You know, never underestimate the power of your words. You know, in the Bible it talks about the power of death and life is found in the tongue. You know, the tongue is the worstest weapon anybody can use on somebody. And the power of somebody's words, you know, some people underestimate that. We might say flippant things at times, but not really think about the impact. And if you're in love with somebody and you're in a relationship with them and you're intimate with them, and then they use words to wound and destroy you, it is very, very hard to get over. Fortunately for me, you know, I've been able to heal from that. For a lot of people, it's not been easy for them, and I continue to pray that, you know, that people, if you've been through it, that you know, that you can heal from it and that you can find help to heal from it, because it's not easy. I've been able to forgive him, as I said, for the things that he has done, and I don't feel no malice or anger or hate towards him because of these the situations that, you know, that had happened. But, you know, it's important to know that regardless of what that person has done, they have no right to hit you or to abuse you in any way, because everyone is the same. You know, there's no one person better than the other. But unfortunately, when hurt people hurt other people, this is what happens. So, you know, you need to know you're valuable, you're lovable. You know, God loves you and cares for you, and you know, you're a person of worth. No matter how your experiences have left you feeling, you are a person of worth, and you're lovable and valuable, and you deserve more. So I hope that you found this video helpful. Please check out my website, www.daughterarise.org.uk. I'll leave the links to the organisations down in the description bar. If you can support with Testimony to the Street, please do, because we need all the help that we can get. I'm really excited that we're going to do this. But also as well, check out my other videos. I talk about loads of different things, and I try and make it as varied as possible. And any support that you can give me by sharing the videos, subscribing, liking them. You know, if you like what I talk about, press the like button, and you know, show your support that way. And yeah, also as well, check out my Hope in the Future blog. That is on my website. Every month I write blog posts again on experiences that I've been through and things that I believe that might be able to help you out of that. And I hope to see you on the next video. And that is it for now. Take care.